What's going on, Kel? See, it's not that Bungie's ultra competitive mindset is the issue. It's the fact that they do not have their expectations correct. Plus, they do not understand that you don't need a $200 million budget to make a banger game. In fact, the higher your budget, the more likely your game is to be a financial failure, even if it is a good game. The most prime example of this is Expedition 33. Expedition 33 had a small team, smaller budget, and made bank. Some exceptions to those rules are like Elden Ring and Baldur's Gate 3. But remember, even though they had larger budgets and a bit bigger teams on them, they are exceptions to the rule because those are exquisitely good games. Exquisitely good games. But also there's some cultural factors in there, especially with Baldur's Gate 3 because it is a D&D game. There's some other things that help feed into that, which also limited how much they needed to actually do a budget for advertising. A prime example, and why I pointed out Markiplier in my original video, is that Markiplier did exactly what he needed to do. He wanted to make a horror movie. He wanted to gear it up to a horror audience. He had a budget of $3 million out of his own pocket, and he made 40 plus million. That's how you keep your expectations in line with how much you've spent and the audience you're trying to get. And wait for it. People outside of who like horror came and looked and see what this is going on because they saw the buzz, they saw the thoughts about it. And the advertising for it wasn't that big either. Because wait for it, because he was a YouTuber and a content creator, he could do a lot of that himself, which saves him. It's why you also see, again, in the animanga space, a lot of these creators in animanga going to these independent routes, trying to get into these smaller companies for distribution where they do some more grassroots sort of advertising and monetization for their product, right? There's an anime coming out called something Southpaw or something like that. Basically, it's about two artists doing some things, and the guy who created it went to all these screenings himself. The creator went to all these screenings, went to all these pressers, interviews, all this stuff. There's talking about his product, which means he doesn't have to spend money on advertising because he's doing that work. He's putting that in, which means that his expectations and what he's looking for are far less than when you say, oh, I went to this place and I had a $200 million budget and now we got to make that back plus our advertising. And again, when you think about that, look at cinema, look at films. A lot of movies, specifically, we'll talk about this new banger, Project Hail Mary. Yeah, it had a budget of $200 million, but that's an Amazon movie. Amazon, all they got to do is make up their budget. If they hit $200 million for the lifetime of that movie being in theaters, before they do distribution on their platform, before they put out physical releases, then they can make up the loss from other things because they're that massive of a company. But not many people have that sort of lenience and that sort of grace, which is why when you see games like Marathon, and God forbid we talk about that $200 million monstrosity fucking Concord. When you do that, when you let your budget balloon like that, and you have such lofty expectations for shit that ain't got the audience for it, you will fail. And that's what I said, and that's what I mean when I talk about Marathon. Marathon is an extraction shooter, and there is an audience for it, but there are already extraction shooters out before it released. So if you really think you're gonna bang around with these already established properties, you gotta have a motherfucking gem of a game. And they didn't have that. It's half-baked, its audience is unfocused, and it does not have the content or the audience retention to make it a success with a $200+ million budget. And that's what the conversation really is about. It's about expectations, audience retention, your audience focus, and your budget. If you cannot limit those things within an acceptable range, you will fail. But that's what I just think. I don't know. What do y'all think? Hit them comments and let me know. Peace.